Hey you guys, Tashina here. I'm going to show you how to make a baby ribbon skirt. I usually like to use the 7th, 8th satin ribbons. I usually use about 4 or 5 ribbons per panel. And I like to lay out my ribbons just to give an idea of how I'm going to be painting my ribbons onto my material. Now what I do, once I have everything laid out, I like to pin them down, and I like to pin my pins from right to left. This helps me when I'm sewing where my pins are facing downwards, and I wouldn't get stabbed as much as I am sewing my ribbons onto my skirt. So we're going to go ahead and pin the first panel, and then we're going to go ahead make sure whatever you do from your first panel that you're going to do the same thing onto your second panel. Now we're ready to start sewing, and I like to find the middle center of the ribbon, and I use that as my guide to make my first stitching. And when we start sewing, I like to use the zigzag sewing stitching, and I use the same color thread as I am sewing, and so this helps me from where I'm not able to keep switching out my threads with the colors of my ribbons. Now once I get that first stitch done, I do that for my first panel, I do that to my second panel, and then we're going to go ahead and sew right here along the sides. As you can see, I use the same color thread on the stitching here, and it's easy for me to switch from the first panel onto the second panel using the same color thread. As you can see, the colors of my ribbons match that middle ribbon, and it's easy for me to get that ribbon secured and do the same thing from my first panel onto my second panel. Now, as you can see, I changed out my ribbon to the plum color ribbon, and I began stitching along the sides of that material, catching both the maroon and the gold ribbon. Now we're reached the bottom of our ribbon skirt. We're sewing the last ribbon down, which is the gold. Just make sure you change out your threads to match the color of ribbons that you are sewing down. Now you can see all the ribbons have been sewn down, and they match the color of ribbons on our skirts. Now we're going to move on to the top of the ribbons, which is the mint and the cream color. Now we're on to the white cream color ribbon, and when we get this done, we will go ahead and start sewing the sides. So you can see we're sewing the sides here along, connecting the first panel and the second panel together. After we had completed the sides, we will go ahead and sew the bottom of our skirt. Again, I just folded 1/2 inch on the first fold, folded again on the second fold another 1/2 inch just to secure and sew the bottom, a total of 1 inch at the bottom. Once we are done sewing the bottom, we will go ahead and sew the waistline. The waistline, I go ahead and fold it 1.5 inch, and I fold the second fold another 1.5 inch. And when you're done sewing around your waistline, don't forget to leave that opening. That's where we're going to go ahead and insert our elastic band for the waistline. Now we're going to push our sewing machine to the side. As you can see, we're making sure all of our ribbons line up correctly and that they match from both the first and second panel. Now we're using a zigzag stitching to connect the elastic bands together. The zigzag stitching helps secures the waistline for the elastic bands. And we're ready to move on to closing the opening that we had left open when we had inserted the elastic band. It gives it a cleaner look for our ribbon skirt once it's completed. Now we are done with our baby ribbon skirt. Thank you guys.